Fenn with supernaturalhousechurch.org. Once again, talking about the discipleship process. Today, talking about part one of what the Father taught me about momentum from the past and why it keeps rising up in our current life to bite us sometimes, and why these things keep happening from the past that come up and how the devil uses them, etc. First, a programming note. As I'm recording this is August 2nd of 2017. Next Wednesday, normally I do these on Wednesday morning, I'm not going to be available. I'm having what's called a cardio version next Wednesday morning, which is where they knock you out with anesthetic, and while the heart is still beating, they use the paddles and try to shock the heart back into a normal rhythm because of my afibrillation, which is, whatever. It's an in and out thing, and it's happened 7:30 next Wednesday morning, August 9th. So if you're viewing this, I'm going to do this actually on next Tuesday, the 8th. So if you're viewing this between August 2nd and August 7th of 2017, just a programming note, I'm actually going to do this Tuesday morning, the 8th, because I'm not going to be available on the 9th. So anyway, let's get on with this, just that programming note. Again, supernaturalhousechurch.org is our website if you want to sign up for my weekly thoughts, which is a weekly email teaching, etc., etc. Now, the situation was this. I had a man come to me for prayer. He and his wife had two young children. They'd only been married about 4 years or so. He had been married previously to a woman and had a couple children with them, or with her. And then this woman, his wife, had an affair. And she was caught in the affair, repented when she was caught, etc., etc. They were trying to patch things together. They spent a year or more in counseling. Then she went out and had another affair. And at that point, he had had enough. And so he left her and supported his two children, had them every other weekend. His new wife, after a couple of years, he'd met her. They were married. They had kids of their own. It was a very normal, very healthy thing. But he had this thing. He said, this, my ex-wife, he said, I support the kids, her, et cetera, et cetera. She's messed up her life. She's got stuff she's got to put together. But she said this, she said, my wife and I now, and our kids now, we're putting our lives together. And just when we see a light at the end of the tunnel, just when things are stable, it seems like my ex-wife will file a suit for more money or more something or whatever. And he said, it's like the devil just comes up once things are calm, once things are going well, I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and then boom, something from my past, from my ex-wife will spring up and just cause us all sorts of difficulty and mess up our budget and thousands in attorney fees and all that stuff. And then about the same time, I had a woman come to me for prayer because before she knew the Lord, then when she was a baby Christian, she really had a trouble with lust. And I'm not talking about sexual lust. She had a trouble with money. She couldn't keep herself from buying things. And so she racked up all sorts of credit card debt. And then she came to the Lord, got serious about her finances, became disciplined, and put some things in a consolidation type thing. And then she had a couple creditors from her past suddenly that she thought had been included in this kind of umbrella, one payment pays all type of thing, agreement that she had entered into. These creditors come in and start harassing her. And she thought it had already been taken care of in her monthly payment as she put her life together. She asked the same basic question: why is it just when I'm getting my head above water financially and getting disciplined and everything else, does this stuff from the past happen? And so I went to the Father one night in prayer about this and was praying, and I asked Father, what is this about the past? Why does the past bother so many believers? And suddenly before me, I was in the Spirit and I saw this big screen. It was like a movie screen. And it was divided down the middle. The one side of it, the left side, was the kind of light that you have right before dawn or right before sunset. It's dusk. It's barely light. It's kind of a gray light, and that area, that half of that screen was all dead, and it was. It was almost like a cartoon. There was a cattle skull, and you could see the railroad tracks. Railroad tracks went from left to right across the screen. Went completely. From one end to the other. And this was just dead. It was dark. There wasn't any life. There were no bugs, no birds, no animal life, no nothing. And there's this train coming. And I can see it. It's like one of those 1800s trains with the big smokestack, and it's billowing out smoke, and that smoke is just trailing behind it and covering everything in that dead area. And then the train was proceeding, and I noticed it hit this barrier. On the other side was this beautiful, tropical, well-lit animals, butterflies, all sorts of stuff. It was just tropical. It was just a boom right down the middle. And this train was going through this dead area, and then it hit that light. And as soon as that cow catcher on the front of that train hit the light, it was like a cartoon train. It leaned back, like this, and it slammed on the brakes. But the momentum of the train and the many cars that had following it attached to it, that made up this train, it leaned backwards and it slammed on the brakes, but it slid into the light. It slid into that lush tropical area. And it was interesting because it was going down, and it was gradually slowing down, and it got just to the point, it's trying to reverse its wheels. It got just to the point that it hesitated, it stopped, and then it went backwards and it leaned backwards, and it gradually picked up steam, and it went all the way back, and it went back into the darkness and then disappeared from view. And I said, Father, what are you showing me? And he said, the areas that you ask about are primarily three: in relationships, finances, and personal health. And he said, because these things are on the earth, many times a person will have these seeds and that life that was here on the earth still spring up and to be used by the enemy against them in my life. He says, but you'll notice, he says, they come to a point, everyone will come to a point where they can feel the momentum changing. And he reminded me of a situation right there where Barb and I had been in a situation with some of our finances, and we had learned some discipline and different things that you do as you go through newlywed and young family ordeals. And I remember Barb making this statement. She said, you know what? I know in my spirit we'll never pass this way again. The lessons we've learned and what we've gone through, she said, we'll never pass this way again. And the Father related that to how a person can often feel in their spirit that change that happens. And so, the part one, I want to show you part two of this about the Father and how he and the Lord, how the unraveling happens of the way it was presented to me about how a person unravels harassment from the past and make sure that they are part of that train that goes way into the past and never to show its ugly head again. But the point today is that a lot of what bothers Christians is these things, these three areas, the finances, the relationships, and the health from the past that we've done to ourselves. We were ignorant, we didn't know the Lord, etc., but He's faithful. And what He said to me, and this was interesting what the Father was saying to me, He said, people will pray and they expect immediate answers. He said, but they don't realize the momentum that carries with them because they have lived that way or they did these things for many years. And he said it can't be done overnight because these are things of the earth. And, I'm condensing, I'm trying in about 5 or 6 or 8 minutes to condense something that took about 20 minutes to do. So, but the point is this for today, that if there's something in the past, there is a way to unravel that. There is a way to get that past, that it would be in the past. And I want to share that next week. And just be encouraged that even though you're praying and you're saying, Father, what is going on? One of the things that He taught me was that if a demon, you can tell a demon is operating through a person to persecute you, to come against you. One of the things I learned was that, Jesus said to cast demons out. And so one of the things I learned is, and this is where I went with this guy, with his ex-wife, was to say this: Satan, I take authority over the spirit that is operating through thus and so, and you name the person, and I command it to stop. I cast it out of this situation. And Father, I ask for you to put your angels as a buffer between us. And then you start praying for that person. Father, I pray for that person. As Jesus said, you pray for those who persecute you. You do good to those. To be like our Father in heaven. He said that in Matthew 5:44. And so what I have found successful, and this is years past and everything, but it works, is that when you can perceive that a demon is attached to whatever that harassment from the past is, that momentum from the past, it's bad enough that fact is there, that bill is there, that relationship is there, or you've produced children through that relationship, or there's some business partnership that is from that relationship that's now difficult, and Satan is using that against you. That's difficult enough. But when you can tell a demon is enticing that, is attached to that, and doing the enticement, is doing the antagonism of that, that's when you take authority over the thing and you say the spirit attached to this harassment or whatever, I cast you out, I command you away in Jesus' name. And you ask the Father for angelic buffer there and protection, and you'll find that attack will just shrink down. The momentum may carry, but it will come to its own conclusion. And there won't be the added torment, there won't be the added harassment with it. So I want to leave you with that. I'll give you more insight next week, next Tuesday, about the second part of this, about the Lord unraveling this. I just started to get into it a little bit this morning. God bless you, and I'll talk to you next week. And again, if you're watching this live between August 2nd and the 6th, or the 7th, I'll be on the 8th, Tuesday the 8th at this time. Bye-bye.